Hi there, I'm Brooke Baldwin. You're watching CNN. Thank you for being with me on this Monday afternoon here as the nation pauses to remember and to pay tribute to Senator John McCain, who died Saturday after a long battle with brain cancer. Just moments ago, his former campaign manager read aloud a letter from the political dynamo known as statesman, patriot, and maverick. And so I just want to play this for you. You listen to this. This is the final public words of Senator John McCain.
These are John's final words. Fellow Americans, that association has meant more to me than any other. I lived and died a proud American. We are citizens of the world's greatest republic, a nation of ideals, not blood and soil. We are blessed and are a blessing to humanity when we uphold and advance those ideals at home and in the world. But we have always had so much more in common with each other than in disagreement. If only we remember that and give each other the benefit of the presumption that we all love our country, we will get through these challenging times. We will come through them stronger than before. We always do. Farewell, fellow Americans. God bless you, and God bless America.
Wow. His final words with me now. Paul Kane, senior congressional correspondent and columnist for the Washington Post. My goodness, you know, Rick Davis struggling to get through that, Paul. And I jotted down the note from the late senator. We have so much more in common with one another. It's a resonant sentiment that really rings true today.
Yeah, that was the thing about McCain. He would always say that a fight not joined was a fight not enjoyed. He loved the spirit of the battle, but he really tried to focus on finding common ground and at least having real friendships and bonds. You know, some of his best friends were Republicans and a lot of his best friends were Democrats, from people like John Kerry, who he originally had a bitter fight with over the Vietnam War, to former Vice President Joe Biden, who he served in the Senate with, and the late Ted Kennedy, who, my gosh, you know, they died on the same day, 9 years apart. McCain always wanted to find that common thread to keep the place running, to keep the Senate functioning.
He was, of course, you know, a father and a husband and a prisoner of war. But as a senator, you write, Paul, that McCain first fell in love with Congress when he was in the Navy back in the late 70s. Well, tell me about what he saw just even as a young officer.
Sure. You know, after he was freed from Vietnam, he came back, he did a couple different jobs, and finally they put him in the liaison office for the Navy, where he worked essentially in the Capitol interacting with senators. And that's where he met these legends, these Joe Bidens and Ted Kennedys, Pat Moynahans and Phil Gramm eventually. And that's where he really caught the political bug. He saw the power that these folks had and the way they could impact policy. And he was enthralled by it. And by 1981, he left the Navy, which was a pretty rebellious thing to do for the son and grandson of Navy admirals, but he really decided that was where he was going to cut his teeth. And that was the moment that really sort of changed his life and changed his arc away from a lifelong sailor to, you know, a maverick senator, patriot hero.
You mentioned the former Vice President Joe Biden. Tell me the last time you saw Senator McCain and anything that was exchanged there.
Yeah, there was an event in Philadelphia at the Constitution Center where Joe Biden presented McCain on a cold Monday night the Liberty Medal that's given out up there every year. And McCain became emotional after Biden introduced him. And 2 days later, I saw him just off the Senate floor, and I had this exchange where I said, you know, gosh, you looked like you were getting emotional up there on stage. And McCain spent a minute or two just telling this story about how he met young Beau Biden, the vice president, the future vice president's son, after Biden had come to the Senate in the worst possible way, you know, his wife dying in a crash, his wife and daughter dying in a crash, and then trying to raise these two young sons by himself.
Yep.
And Beau would go on to serve honorably in the military and go to Iraq, and McCain would see him in Iraq, and then McCain just started growing emotional thinking about it all. And there's Beau Biden and McCain, who both died of the same brain cancer. And he just grew emotional and just stopped talking and got in the elevator and left.
Just hearing all these stories, what a way to honor him. Paul Kane, thank you so much for being with me today. And, you know, the nation will spend this entire week paying tribute to Senator John McCain, a survivor of torture. McCain couldn't actually raise his arms because of the wounds he suffered as a prisoner of war.